Good morning, and thank you once again for tuning in to Spending Our Kids' Inheritance. Today we hope to help answer the question, is MSC cruises really all that bad? So we recently took a cruise, a 27-day transatlantic. We embarked in Buenos Aires out of Argentina, and we disembarked in Warnemünde, Germany. For a little context on this booking, we decided to start our 2025 travels off in Europe, and we really enjoyed our transatlantic cruise returning from Europe last year. So we decided to look for a transatlantic going the other way. This one had to be happened to be convenient. We were already in Peru, so starting in Buenos Aires worked out perfectly, and it took us to Germany, which was roughly where we wanted to start anyway. So that all worked out. The total cost for us for the cruise was $3,120.90, which worked out to $57.79 per person per day. And the ship we were on was the MSC Poesia. Um, all right, so let's move on with the review, starting with Embarkation. We felt the embarkation in Buenos Aires was very slow and unorganized. The number of people that were waiting outside, it took a good hour and a half just to get inside the building. The lines were incredibly long. Once inside the building, it wasn't too bad. The inside the terminal building was fairly roomy, but it did fill up pretty quick. They were definitely bringing people in faster than they were moving them onto the ship for some reason. I'm not sure what happened, but I have to guess that somebody somewhere dropped the ball. Maybe they opened the terminal late. Well, we do understand that the cruise lines don't always have control over the terminals. It is still part of the cruise experience. So due to the unorganized and slow boarding, we rated the embarkation process a 3.3 out of 5. Next item up is the ship itself. The ship overall didn't look too bad considering it was built in 2008, and I can't find a recent refurbishment date for it. A couple of the negatives for especially a long cruise like this is there's no self-service laundry, which we really appreciated on the Princess ship we were on. There are, in my opinion, too many smoking areas and in bad places. Ship does show its age and lack of maintenance in a few places, with lights being out and things like that. And also a minimal thing, I guess, one of the things that I found was the paper towels throughout the ship were really thin, like tissue paper thin. Not really good in my opinion. Based on these things, our overall rating for the ship was a 3.7. Up next we have the room. For this cruise we booked an interior cabin. The room number was 10054. Overall I'd say things were okay. Not the best room we've had, but everything is adequate. I'll say the space, considering the limited time you're in the cabin, space was okay. Closet storage was okay. TV, yeah, a little small, and the plugs were a little lacking. It is an older ship, so that's kind of to be expected. The other couple things were the AC. Not that it didn't work, but we did have it turned all the way down when we were there, and cabin really never seemed like it got cold. It was cool, comfortable, but on occasion it would feel like it warmed up a bit. There was also a leak under the sink that they did fix, but they did so by wrapping up the part with electrical tape. Not the best repair job. Aside from that, and of course, the room has a mini bar. Not something that we would use. We asked the room attendant if she could just clear it, but she said she wasn't able to do that. Wasn't allowed to do that. So we ended up just pulling everything out and stacking it behind the TV. Everything that wouldn't go bad being out. There were some fruit juices that we just left in there just in case. But overall, the room itself was good. No major complaints. And we rated it a 4 out of 5. Moving on in the review, we have the main dining next. For the main dining, we had La Fontaine, or the fountain, I guess. The main dining room was pretty good. It was, I would say, better than our previous MSC cruise. That ship, we were on the Divina almost 10 years ago, so maybe time has changed the way they do things. Maybe it's a different ship, but there is more room, a little more room, I would say, in this dining room than there was on the Divina. I remember when we were on the Divina, the waiters hardly had room to move around, so this was much better. The seating was pretty good. I would say on the complaint side, we booked almost a year in advance, requested a late seating, and got an early seating. Not sure how they do it, but I guess booking ahead doesn't guarantee you anything. The food was good. It wasn't quite to the level of Princess, which is our only other cruise to compare to at the moment. But it was good. It was better than the buffet, and the service was good. The only other probably negatives were that if you like decaf, there is no decaf offered. At least, well, I shouldn't say no decaf. There's no decaf included. That would be the way to put it. The only decaf they had on the ship was the specialty dining coffee, to order a coffee, pay for it extra. But aside from that, the food was good, the service was good. Nothing real exceptional. The service, I guess, was above average. The guys really seemed to work hard. They got the food out decent. Main dining rooms are not known for their speed. If you want to get and go, then buffet's your option. But we found the main dining room to be good. I guess our only real problem was that it was an early dining, and we don't generally eat that, early. So for the main dining room, we rated it a 4.3 out of 5. The next item to discuss is the buffet. Now, the buffet is the one area, or one of the areas on the ship, that I really felt there was a lot of room for improvement. So I'll run over some of the goods and bads. Some of the goods, they actually have booths in the buffet. Not a lot, but there are some booths. The downside is that all the ones that I tried were a little narrow. They were a tight fit. I'm not the skinniest person, I get it, but they could use a little bit more room. One of the other things was the selection. There just wasn't there was a good selection, but the selection did not change over the course of our cruise, not by much. It was really almost the same thing every day. One of the other areas that I'll say has a lot of room for improvement, no decaf coffee. I know us decaf drinkers aren't the largest portion of coffee drinkers, but to have the only decaf on the ship be essentially a premium coffee, you have to pay for it. To me is unacceptable. I'm not the only decaf drinker out there, and especially when you start getting these longer cruises that have a lot more older generation. I imagine there were a fair number of decaf drinkers. I know I ran into a few that said the same thing. They were upset there was no decaf coffee available, not included coffee, I should say. While we're on the subject of drinks, let's talk about the juices. They did have juices available for breakfast, so not at lunch or dinner time, but at breakfast time you had juices available. There was dispensers, machines with 4 flavor options. The downside is they all had the same kind of aftertaste. From what I saw when they were refilling one of them, I believe they're using a concentrate. And I'm guessing the company that they get the concentrate from is using like a citric, some kind of citric acid or an acid as a preservative. The downside is they're using that same thing in all of the flavors. So they all had this kind of odd acidic aftertaste, making it almost the same, taste on all of them. And while it did get a little bit better, or maybe it was kind of getting lucky with some machines, most of them, at least when we started the cruise, were all very watered down, more like flavored water than a fruit juice. So the juices were not anything that was really spectacular. Overall, the food itself was good in the buffet. I mean, it's buffet food, so if you get there when things are fresh, it's really good, and if it's been sitting out for a little bit, it's not so good. Um, but that's to be expected when you eat in the buffet. The pizza was real good. I'd say not surprising because it's an Italian company. You kind of expect the pizza to be good on an Italian own ship. The pastas were usually good too. I don't think I had any complaints about them, other than again the same, no real change. So they had 4 flavors of pizza, and they had the same 4 flavors of pizza throughout the whole cruise. Um, the hamburgers were terrible. They did them, I would say, well, their choice of patties has got to be low grade. They were very almost dry when you got them, not much flavor. Like a cheap frozen hamburger patty. And they would cook them up I saw them cooking them up at like 10 or 11, and then probably throwing them in a warmer. And they were all put together and wrapped and then set out wrapped. And so depending on how long they sat, the bread could get hard. Hot dogs were slightly better. It's probably a little harder to mess up a hot dog. And I can tell you that the hamburgers in the main dining room weren't any better. One day for lunch, when I was in the main dining room, which often just went to the main dining room for lunchtime because it wasn't near as busy as the buffet. One of the little tricks: go to the main dining room for lunch and do dinner in the buffet. um, didn't have much crowds that way. But anyway, I tried a hamburger in the main dining room. It was no better. I thought maybe it would at least be fresh and taste a little bit better, but it didn't. So my personal opinion, just avoid the hamburgers and hot dogs. Pizza was good. Pasta was good. If you have a short cruise, I'm sure you'll find more than enough variety. But if you happen to be on a long one, a transatlantic, the variety may not cut it for you. I think the final thing to address is probably the overall service. They never really had enough people in there, so especially when it got busy, clearing tables could be bad. If you actually wanted to order a specialty coffee, or if you're in there for lunch, wanted to order a beer or something, getting somebody to come by the table took forever. You might as well just go up to the bar and get it yourself. It was quicker. So I guess that's about it for the buffet. So for a rating for the buffet on the ship, we gave it a 2.7 out of 5. Moving on to the next item on our list, we have miscellaneous dining. And unfortunately, there is none. That's right, no grill at the pool or pizza place or noodle bar, nothing. Your only included dining options are the main dining room and the buffet. That's it. Anything else, any food anywhere else on the ship is all extra, premium. So because it's not included, I just gave it an unacceptable across the board, which gives the average rating for miscellaneous dining a 1.7. I'm kind of curious what everybody thinks, if maybe I should do things a little differently, give it a middle ground rating, or give it a complete 0. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment below if you have any opinion on this, or if you think maybe what I did was the right way of going. Continuing on, we now come to the pools and sun deck portion of the review. The pool and sun deck area really wasn't all that bad. Lily, for the most part, didn't have problem finding any sun chair, lounge chairs. They do have the typical problem that pretty much every cruise ship does with people reserving chairs, leaving stuff on them and being gone pretty much all day and never using them, or never showing up till late. But that's a problem that all the ships have. The only other real issue that I had was the smoking area. Like I mentioned, I talked about this on the walkthrough when I did the ship walkthrough for the Poesia. They just, in my opinion, way too much space for smokers, and it was hard to get away from it sometimes when you're up on the pool deck. So overall, we gave the pool and sun deck area a 4.0 out of 5. Now moving on to the entertainment portion of this show, this review, we have the main showroom entertainment, main showroom and entertainment. So the main showroom was actually pretty good. It had 2 levels, lower main level, and then there was like a balcony area. I would say there was adequate seating. I don't think we ever saw it completely full when we were there. We tended to get there early so we could get something down at least close to the stage. But I thought it was good. The chairs were a little bit narrow. Not that I couldn't fit, but they were a little snug. But aside from that, the entertainment itself we enjoyed. There was a good variety of entertainment. Some people complain about the entertainment. Now, they don't have the big production numbers that some other cruises do, and I can say for sure, like Princess, because we've been on several Princess cruises. But we did enjoy the shows. There's one thing that I'll say did get a little bit tiresome, especially when you're 4 weeks or almost 4 weeks on the ship. Every show started out like this. So I imagine you could see how after a while that would get a little tiresome. I think by midway of the cruise, when we went to a show, I'd be just kind of sitting there going, yeah, come on, let's get to the show. But like I said, the shows overall were good. I do have to hand it to the Master of Ceremonies, the cruise director, I believe. Every night he came out and did the intros in 4 or 5 languages, depending on where we were at. I got a little clip here coming up. This one is 4 languages: English, German, French, and Spanish, I believe.
Very good evening, and welcome to our beautiful theater. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure to introduce to all of you what really fantastic show, because tonight we have one tribute to the Argentinian folk music with our 4 dancers. They're ready behind the scene to do a beautiful show tonight to all of you. Meine Damen und Herren, schönen guten Abend und herzlich willkommen zu unserem Theater. Meine Damen und Herren, heute Abend für Sie eine wunderschöne Show. Heute Abend für Sie eine Tribute an die argentinische Folklore-Musik mit alle unseren 4 Danseurs. Mesdames et messieurs, bonsoir tous, nous sommes francophones, bonsoir et bienvenue encore une fois, bienvenue à notre fantastique théâtre. Ce soir, nous avons pour vous un fantastique spectacle. Ce soir, nous avons pour vous un hommage à la musique du folklore argentin avec tous nos 4 danseurs. ¿Dónde está mi gente? ¿Están dormidos? Yo quería saludarlos a ellos antes porque sabía que lo mejor se queda para lo último. Estamos así, caballeros, buenas noches, ¿cómo anda? Hoy tenemos un show fantástico para presentarles. Se mueve esto, ¿no? Con shows. Hoy tenemos un show fantástico para no sé cómo hacer para bailar. La chacarera van a ver, ¿no? Grande, pero van a ver. Hoy tenemos un show fantástico para presentarles porque vamos a hacer un tributo a la música del folclore argentino. Vamos a tener un show de malambo con nuestros cuatro bailarines que ya están listos detrás de bambalinas para hacer un show fantástico esta noche. So, ladies and gentlemen.
So how did we rate the main shows in Showroom? We gave them a 4.7 out of 5. And to give you an idea of what some of the shows are like, here's a short little clip of one. Shouldn't be any copyright issues with this one, so I'll let it run for a bit. All right, so the next item to cover is miscellaneous entertainment. This is just all the miscellaneous stuff going on around the ship. They had a real good mix, everything from these like fit dance classes like you see in here. During the daytime, they had activities, a variety of dance classes. They had tango instruction, and they had I think some salsa classes, and they had the fit dance. In the evenings, there were shows in a variety of the lounges, almost all the lounges and little bars. So we enjoyed walking around the ship in the evening. Sometimes just kind of stretch our legs, wander around a little bit, see what was playing, sit down, listen to music here and there if we hit something that we enjoyed. A lot of people seem to enjoy the dancing as well. So for miscellaneous entertainment and venues, we scored a 4.7 out of 5. This next category is miscellaneous services. Now, in this area, we include all those miscellaneous interactions you have with crew members, any interactions at the guest services desk. I imagine most everybody hits that at least once. Bars, lounges, announcements, all those kind of miscellaneous things where you're dealing with service. Now, one of the things prior to going, we watched a lot of videos, and I remember from our very first MSC cruise, which was 10 years ago or so, that there did seem to be a excessive amount of announcements, and the announcements went on forever because they were always in multiple languages. Now, this time, that did not seem to be the case. Maybe they seem to be pushing a bit of information through their app, so that might be why. They may have, listened to customers and some of the complaints and tried to I'll say fix that, make it better. So yeah, we didn't find that the announcements were really all that excessive, but the staff was minimal. So interactions with staff, sometimes you had to wait a while if you wanted to get something. I saw a fair number of lines, at bars, at the coffee places. We don't usually buy extra stuff, but I just paid attention. Some of the areas where they didn't communicate well was port information. Several of the ports that we visited on this, there was shuttle service available either from the port to the town, or at least to get you out of port. And these kind of things weren't conveyed to, not that we knew of. We didn't see anything on the paper printout planners. We didn't see anything in the app for the port. So there is a little bit of lack in the information they provided. But the overall announcements seem to be better. That when they do make an announcement, they still are in multiple languages. So you're likely to be hearing, if they do make an announcement, it will go on for a bit. So for miscellaneous services, we rated that a 3.7 out of 5. So the second to last item on our list is technology. Technology is things like the app, the TVs in the room, technology around the ship, kind of how you order things, how the information screens and whatnot. And yeah, overall, I'd say they're a little lacking in the technology department. The app seemed to work pretty good. Didn't really have any problems with it. The messaging on it works well and does have notifications, which is one thing that the Princess app has issues with, is if somebody messages you through the Princess app, you don't get any notification. So at least on the MSC app, it does give you that. A downside for some reason is the daily activities are posted like the day of, or midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that. So you get down to the evening, 5, 6, 7 o'clock, and maybe you want to look and see what's going on the next day to start planning your day. You can't, because there's no information there. The next day is blank. So that was a negative. Not a lot of interactive screens around the ship yet. There were a few, but not that many. And I guess my only real big issue with the technology on the ship was the in-room TV, the stateroom TVs. That really, for especially this long of a cruise, really, for lack of a better word, sucked. They're doing, I'm going to say, by satellite. So when we were off the coast of South America, it wasn't too bad. We had a few English channels. But as you went along, channels would change. You would get used to, okay, I can watch this channel and this channel. And then all of a sudden you go to a channel and, oh, hey, there's nothing there. Or the program that was on that channel is no longer, it's something else. When we did the transatlantic cruise, I kind of felt bad because we lost almost everything except some movies. I don't think there was anything in Spanish. At least the wife said she couldn't find much. They had a few movie channels, but they were all in English, and they just repeated the same movies over and over and over. So yeah, an on-demand system would be much better, especially having long cruises like that. I'm okay with not necessarily always having stuff in English, but it would really be nice to have some options, have some on-demand selections. That would be a big suggestion of mine. Based largely on the room TV and the lack of information on the app as far as the upcoming days, we rated technology 3.7 out of 5. So we're now at the final item on the list, which is disembarkation. We disembarked in Warnemünde, Germany. Really, I'd say it was an average disembarkation. Things went well. Nothing really went extra fast or extra good or anything. So we just gave it a 3.3 out of 5 for disembarkation. So that puts a wrap on all the individual sections. The only thing left to do now is give an overall rating. So for the overall rating for this MSC Poesia cruise, We rated it a 3.6 out of 5. Not all that good. Our last two Princess cruises we rated at a 4.6 and a 4.4. So, Princess definitely scores better for us. Would we, never go on this again? Nah, we're not that type. If there was an MSC cruise and another company's cruise that were the same price and the same routes, would we pick MSC? Not likely. We generally would go with another option, even if it was one that we hadn't tried before, providing it was one of the main cruise lines. But was it worth what we paid? Yeah. It got us from South America to Europe to start our trip. It was much more relaxed than flying, and it was within our budget. So all in all, a good cruise. That puts a wrap on this. Thank you for watching once again. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. Please feel free to leave a comment if you agree with my review or disagree with my review. And as always, have happy and safe travels.